Hello everyone, this is the 10th chapter of the Inflate motion graphics series. In this video we are going to create these kind of motion graphics using the extra nodes of the geometry nodes in Blender 4.5. In the first chapter of the series I have created this motion graphics and also provided the general overview for the settings of the Inflate geometry node. So please watch the first chapter of the series. Now let's get started. This motion graphics has two steps. In the first step, we're going to create the self-colliding particles and we're going to use those particles to instance spheres. And in the second step, we're going to create the outer layer to wrap these particles. Later, I will show you how to wrap any object with this setup. So first, we're going to add the mesh plane. So this is our host object for the simulation. Then add the geometry nodes modifier. Let me delete this. First we're going to add the random node, change that to vector and type here -1, and after that we're going to add the scale node, and then we're going to add the points node for the position. So we have this. Let me add more points. So with this we can basically control the spread. Okay, something like that, and we're going to use 50 points. Next we're going to add the XPVD solver node. So with this node we're going to simulate the self-colliding particles. So here we need to change the end frame because we want all the particles from the first frame, and here we're going to define the size of these particles. So let's add the random node and type here 0.3 with 0.5 randomness. Okay. In the dynamic, we're going to make this velocity factor 0 because we don't need any velocity from the previous frame. Otherwise, it's going to make these particles spread out really quickly. So that we don't want. After that, we need to enable the self collision. Okay, and let's see. It is really fast. So let's make this animation smooth. We can animate this using the time fall off node. So let's animate this strength from 1 to 20 frame, change from 1 to 2. See, now it is smooth. And another thing we can add is that we can also add the force based on the particles. So let's add the case particle force node, maybe 10. Okay, nice. And we want to simulate these particles only for 60 frames. And you can see that after 60 frames they suddenly stop. We can fix this by animating this timestamp. So let's make this from 0.042 really small, maybe 0.001. We want to animate this from 40th frame to 60th frame. So now let's see. Okay, maybe 35. Nice. After that we're going to instance spheres on these particles. Let's add XPVD instancer node and here add the icosphere. Now let me increase the resolution and also add the set shade smooth node. And by changing this seed you can change the configuration of this. I think this is nice. So let's bake this. Okay, now it is baked. So this is the setup for the particles or these self-colliding spheres. Next we're going to build the outer layer for these particles. So let's duplicate this node. After that we're going to add the Inflate geometry node, and here we're going to make this height step negative because we want to shrink this. Let me also increase the subdivisions of this input sphere and also combine this so that we can see them together. So we have something like this. So we have to increase the radius of this layer Nice. Next we're going to add the collision of this layer with these spheres or particles. So first realize this, because these are the instances. We need the actual geometry for this. Let me open this and add that here. Now if we rerun the simulation, we have something like this. See, it is colliding with these spheres, but the shrink strength is really strong. That's why it is passing through these spheres. We have to limit this. We're going to add the phase fall off node, and we're going to define the fall off based on these spheres. Let me add that, and here we need to invert this and make this maybe 0.01, and this is really small, maybe 0.04, and we can also smooth this, something like that. With this fall off, we're going to define the shrink strength for this layer. Means when it is really close to these spheres, we're going to make this strength 0. Okay, so let's plug this into the strength and also to the rate. Okay, let me delete this. Now we have something like this. See, now it is not passing through these spheres. In the collision, we can also enable this avoid option, so that we have some separation near to these spheres. Probably you can see that. See, there is separation. Okay, so you can define that separation here. And I think we can also limit the animation to 160 frames. After that, we're going to add the set shade smooth node to smooth this. Now we have something like this. So let's also increase the resolution of this layer to 7 and duplicate this one and add that here, so that we can bake the simulation. Okay, now it is cached, and let's bake this. Nice. And after that, we're going to add the material to this, or duplicate this and add that here. So let's create a material for this. So this is for the spheres, and then we're going to add another one. So this is for the layer. So let's add that here. So this is for the sphere, and this is for the layer. So for the layer, we're going to make this transparent. So let me make this 1, roughness really small, maybe 0.05, and make the transmission 1. Now we have this, and let me also change that to cycles. Okay, so this material for the spheres, we can also make them transparent, something like that. Because these are the particles, we can use the info node of XPBD, and it has this random option. So we can define the random color for this. Let's plug that into this. Here, let's choose maybe orange color, something like that. And here we can use this blue color. We can even duplicate this and add that here. So here we can define different material, maybe make this non-transmission and slightly metallic, something like that. And we can also duplicate this and make this more saturated. Maybe this much. So you can easily create many nice materials for this. Okay. In the layer, you can also use the inflate info node. Like we have this height map, so you can define a color based on that as well. See, we can even invert this. Now let me hide the HDR image. So you can add a different color variation to this outer layer. Let me disconnect this. Another thing you can do is that right now this layer looks like a food blob. You can make this thin layer of sheet by adding a solidify modifier to this. And you can define the thickness here. Now it looks like a thin sheet. Turn off this modifier, then it looks like a blob of liquid. Okay. Next we're going to use this setup for different object. So let me go to the geometry nodes modifier and delete the bake, and let me also move this, and here we need to input a different geometry, and we can also hide this. So let's add a maybe monkey, add 3 levels of subdivisions to this, and then bring that monkey here, plug that into this, and let's see. See, now this like liquid blob is converted into this monkey. We can also add this monkey inside this. Let's plug that into this. Now we have something like this. We can make this a thin layer. This is how you can easily create these kind of motion graphics using the extra nodes of the geometry nodes. This is it. I hope you learned something from this videos. If you like, then please like the video and check out the complete series on my Patreon page. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Happy noding. Bye.